technical issues. Please tell me if you can hear me better. Thumbs up.
Sound great.
Yes. Oh, thank goodness. So sorry. Take two. Welcome to the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs webinar, College Costs Breakdown. We are so glad you are here. As everyone else is coming back into a better sounding room, hopefully, let me offer you our description. This session is designed for students who have been admitted or applied to UCCS. We will review tuition costs, housing costs, provide updates on financial aid timelines, and answers your questions. We are in webinar format, so we can't hear or see you. We heard you loudly in the chat when you couldn't hear us very well. So thank you for stopping us on that. We welcome your questions via the Q&A button. But we've got Chris and Jacqueline and Eddie and Linda and Allie ready to answer your questions on the back end. We are not streaming live on Facebook. We don't know if that's what messed us up the first time. We are recording this session, and so you will find this recording in a day or so on our YouTube UCCS admissions channel. Follow along if you can via the chat button. We will share with you some links, some of the resources that we do have on our website. And then, so yeah, if you're on a laptop, have a second screen ready to open those links. If you're on a mobile, go grab your laptop or tablet. Students, if you're on your mobile, go grab parents, and then maybe they can sit with you and you can follow along. All right, so let's get started. Let me make sure I've got my notes up. So my name is Vanessa Aya. I use pronouns she, her, and I'm one of the Associate Directors of Admissions here at UCCS. I started 22 years ago with the university as an academic advisor and worked in a variety of student success roles. But for the last 11 years, I have enjoyed working in the Office of Admissions, working particularly with families and prospective and admitted and applied students like you all. It's been an interesting year, to say the least, not just because of the obvious, working through a pandemic, but also because I am a parent of a high school senior. My oldest child has been walking with you students throughout this whole process, and so that's certainly given me an interesting lens to all of this. Students, if you're like him, you've applied maybe to several universities and gotten accepted to some of them. And so now you're starting to receive all that financial aid information, you're gathering cost of attendance information so you can make a very informed choice. And one of the things I have observed during this process is, I gotta say, I'm so sorry, all us universities, we do different things. Our letters look different, our deadlines are all different. And I just, if I could get my magic wand out, I wish we could, kind of do it all the same way, but we don't. So I want you today to think of me as a guide when it comes to the cost of college for UCCS, if you choose us. One of the things I paid attention to as my son was going through this process is whether or not a university was being transparent and attentive to him as a potential future student, as a future community member. And the reason why I looked for that is because I truly feel we at UCCS are quite good at these things. And so I share with you this slide before we break down costs, because it comes from one of our monthly town halls with Chancellor Venkat Reddy, which captures why I've stayed and why so many countless students have come through and been successful here at UCCS. So we UCCS have shown that even as we face challenges, we can continue to serve as a first-rate, comprehensive regional research university, achieving national and local impact and caring deeply about the students, about the success and well-being of our students. And I would add that this extends to even when students graduate. I love hearing from countless alum about how they are representing UCCS in their chosen professional fields and their communities. And that's not just here in Colorado, but beyond. Okay, so here is our agenda for tonight. We will talk about the FAFSA. We will talk about tuition and housing, which you will hear me refer throughout the presentation as direct costs, AKA things that will show up on a UCCS bill. We'll talk about the letter that hopefully a good amount of you all have received, your financial aid award notification, and that includes your estimated total cost of attendance, and we'll break that down for you. I'll have a slide on scholarships and some reminders, key dates, and finally Q&A. And again, we will go ahead and take your questions via the Q&A button. All right, so just to start us off, let me see by showing the raise hand features, how many of you have filled out the FAFSA? Move this over here. Oh, goody. Yes, 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 yes. Great. So a little bit more than half of you. You can still fill out the FAFSA for those of you who haven't. And Linda's going to drop into the chat for you all the link that you see on the slide, fafsa.ed.gov. If you haven't already done the FAFSA, it is not too late. For those of you who have done the FAFSA and it's showing as complete with us at UCCS, then those initial financial aid eligibility letters started to go out 3 weeks ago. And I know that they're still going out. For me, I filled out, or me and my son, we filled out our FAFSA pretty early on in early October, but it wasn't actually until last Friday that he received his letter from UCCS. So be on the lookout for that if you haven't gotten it yet. Completing the FAFSA is the first step in securing federal aid for college. So loans, grants, work study, and need-based scholarships. Know that more than half of all students attending college in the US do receive some form of financial assistance. And FAFSA is to be filled out every year that you are in college. All right, and it opens every October 1. Okay, so let's talk a little bit first about estimated direct costs. And so you'll see that link on the slide, and Linda will go ahead and drop this link into the chat feature. You would have also seen this information in our view book if you got it in the mail. And also our view book is on our website. And so let's talk a little bit about this. You'll see there's 3 different tuition classifications. So go ahead and lower your hands from the last questions I asked. How many of you, go ahead and raise your hand if you are a Colorado resident? Okay, excellent. Glad you are here. And then how many of you, lower your hands, how many of you are in the WUI category? So you are from one of the 15 Western states, including California, Hawaii, Arizona, New Mexico, Alaska, Washington, Oregon, etc. Okay, awesome. Go ahead and lower your hands. And then how many of you are non-residents in South and East states? So my Texans, Illinois students, Wisconsin. Okay, cool. So today we've got about a 50% Colorado resident divide, and then we've got 25% WUI, and then about 25% non-residents here today. Well, we are so glad you are here. So when you look at this chart here, you can see that the line for residence life is the same, regardless of your classification, but there is a range. And so this is based off of what type of suite you select. And so over in housing, we have 2 different villages, and we have at least 9 different floor plans. And so, depending on which floor plan you choose, that will determine where in the range you fall. This takes into account meal plan. So for all of our first year students who are on the call, know that meal plan is required and it is included in this price. Where it does differ in price for you all, of course, is in the tuition. Colorado residents getting the most inexpensive, and then our non-resident on the other end of the spectrum. Please note that these costs are based off of a student who is taking 15 credits per semester for a total of 30 credits per year. Our degree programs are 120 hours. So when you divide that out, that's how you get your 4-year degree. The other thing I wanted to note when it comes to residence life, so I said that your suite is included, your meal plan. Also included is your parking permit, internet cable, laundry, utilities. That's all in that particular line, all right? So these are what, again, we call direct costs. Another way to look at this, especially if you kind of want to know those detailed information, like what is in this fees section, or like how does it break down for my meal plan and my room? Well, you can also go to our bill estimator. And so our bill estimator can be found at this website, and Linda's going to drop that link into the chat. And I'll walk you through, actually. Let me go ahead and get out of this real quick, and I'll go from our website. So if you go to our website, uccs.edu, you can also get to our bill estimator by going to degree programs and costs. Click on the cost button. And then scroll down to this gold button, calculate full tuition. That is our bill estimator. So this will give you the same information as the other screen or the other slide that I showed, but with a little bit more detail. So right now you'll see that there's only the bill estimator out there for last year and this year. The reason why we don't have the bill estimator yet for your upcoming school year is because our tuition is set by the University of Colorado System Board of Regents, and they usually don't meet until towards the end of the spring semester. And so for now, we will go ahead and use this year's button, but know that, in a couple of months, we will have a new button for you to click on. I will say, though, that the last 3 years, tuition has not risen at UCCS. In the years that I've been a part of the university, when it has gone up, it on average has gone up about 3%, and that's better than the national average. So, if you want to figure that into your equation as a possibility. So I'm going to click on this year's bill estimator, and so you'll see this. Here is where you can kind of play with the numbers a little bit. So the last screen you saw assumed that you would be taking 30 credits per year or 15 credits per semester. Some students, maybe you have AP credit or IB credit coming in, or maybe you have transfer credit, dual credit, any of that. And so sometimes our first year students, they're like, well, 15 hours, that sounds like a lot. Actually, the minimum to be considered a full-time student is 12. And so if you wanted to do that, you could go to this line, enrollment tuition, and you click on the little caret or the triangle on the right side. We're going to choose fall. And let me actually back up a little bit. So I'm going to choose fall before I get to this section here about the credit hours. So your here in this section, class level, that is determined by how many courses, credit hours you transfer in. So if you are a freshman, sophomore, AKA you're transferring in 59 credit hours or less, which most first year students are, then you will select that button. If you are a student who is transferring in 60 credit hours or more, then of course you would choose the junior senior button. So for today, because I think it's mostly first year students that are on, we're going to choose freshman, sophomore. Because the majority of you all here are Colorado residents, we will go ahead and choose that. Obviously, if you're in the other category, go ahead and choose that so you can see your number. And so let's go ahead and choose 12 credit hours as an example. All right, so done that. I'm going to close this caret back up. And now you'll see the total. This is a semester total because we bill by semester. All right. So that's for 12 credit hours. Our Colorado students, you have what's called the College Opportunity Fund, or your COF. I'll have a slide on that a little bit later, but you can see it takes off some of your tuition, and that is figured into the other slide that I showed you in terms of estimated costs. So that's that line. The fees, when you click on this arrow here, you can click in and see all the different fees that you are paying for. And I have to say that some of those were voted in by students. And Recreation Center is a great example. Students wanted it to be bigger, and so students have to vote as to whether or not they are willing to take on that fee, and they approve that. So you can click into that. Housing here is where you can play with the different pricing in terms of suites. And so I open up that caret, and you will see the two different housing villages that you can choose from. So I'm looking at the prices, and I'm thinking in my head, like, oh gosh, son, I hope you choose the most inexpensive one. But I know his personality, he might want more of like a private bedroom in a suite. But for this scenario, I'm going to go ahead and choose shared triple in a suite. So I choose that. Again, remember that this does take into account your meal plan. So your meal plan is included with that price. So I'm not going to choose the meal plan down here. And so now you've got your total for housing. So here's an estimated total for your first fall semester potentially. This number is potentially what you would see on your first UCCS bill. All right. So that's how you use that particular tool. Let me go back to my slides and talk about a few more things. Okay, so like I mentioned, my Colorado residents, you do have to make sure to apply for the College Opportunity Fund. There's basically two steps for you to be able to utilize it, whether it's with us or another Colorado school. The first step is to complete the application at this website, and Linda will go ahead and drop in that link. And then once you decide that UCCS will be the place for you, make sure you authorize that you want the COF to be applied to your bill here with us. This is something that is, let me just make sure I cover all that information. So that College Opportunity Fund, it's created by Colorado legislators, and it provides a stipend to undergraduate students paying in-state tuition. So that's what that is about. Okay. Okay. New question for you all. How many of you have received your financial aid award notification? Go ahead and raise your hands. Okay. Not quite half of y'all that are here. And how many of you did already complete the FAFSA but have not yet received your financial aid award notification? Okay, so a little bit less. Okay, so if you haven't yet claimed your account on my UCCS portal, make sure to do so, because in there you might have things on your to-do list, such as you might have been chosen to be verified, or they need further tax information, or maybe you didn't register for selective service, for example. If you're still not seeing anything on your to-do list related to financial aid, we will provide you with financial aid's contact information so that you can check in with them. But let's just go over kind of whether or not you have your letter or not. We'll go ahead and give you the anatomy of the letter. So if you did get your letter, it's a one-page thingy. from financial aid, and it would have come to you via snail mail. That is one of the few things that we send to you via US Post. And so I'm going to work my way up and kind of explain to you what that letter looks like. So on the bottom is what you're looking at now. The bottom section of your letter gives you your estimated total cost of attendance. And so depending on, again, which tuition classification you are, you will see this a particular column of costs alongside with the description. And so this slide, this is one of 3 slides because it depends on what you listed on your FAFSA information. So if you are a student who listed that you are going to live on campus, then this is the slide for you. So again, this gray section here, you'll see, it's different depending on your classification. And then the housing we have also estimated. These 2 are grayed out. That's because, again, those are what we call direct costs. These are the things that are going to show up on your UCCS bill. You're saying, Vanessa, on the bottom, this estimated cost of attendance, it's a lot more than all the other stuff you've shown me before. That's because we have included in your cost of attendance estimate indirect costs. So these things like book supplies, transportation, personal expense, average loan fees, you don't pay UCCS for that, but we want to make sure that we are, estimating for you how much some of those other things might cost. And so that's why those are out there, and that's why you're estimated when you first get it. You might be like, whoa, why is that so much? Okay. Let me just make sure I covered everything on that. All right, so again, gray sections, that's what's going to show up on a UCCS bill. Now, perhaps you are an El Paso County resident. Any El Paso County residents on the call today? Go ahead and raise your hand. Yes, a good amount of you. And so some of you might have chosen on your FAFSA that you would be living off campus with parents. For our first year students, all first year students are required to live on campus except for El Paso County students. And so our students who did choose that on the FAFSA, that they would be living off campus with parents, then you are seeing these totals with the same descriptions along the side. You can see that we do still put in an estimate for housing. However, again, that's not something that will show up on your bill because you're choosing to live off campus, but we want you to plan accordingly. And I've kind of played with that idea of like, is that the rent I could collect from my son throughout his first year? But you all work that out. Okay, so this slide again is for if you're living off campus with your parents. Then finally, the last slide. Do I have any transfer students on the call today? Yes, we've got some transfer students. So for you, you might be living off campus, in an apartment, not with parents. And so you will see that the line that changes for you all is this housing estimate. And ironically, you'll notice that the housing estimate, if you live off campus versus on campus, is actually a little bit more if you're living off campus. But again, same deal. All of this white section here, that doesn't show up on a UCCS bill. Let's see. Okay, so those 3 slides that I just showed you, again, depending on which category you fall in, that's the bottom section of your letter. The middle section of your letter then offers you, oops, clicking the wrong slide here, what you potentially will be awarded based on the information that you put in on your FAFSA. And so here's an example of what a student might have gotten. So in this scenario, this student is a Colorado resident. And in his middle section, they might have gotten the Pell Grant. They might have gotten the federal SEOG grant. as well as the Colorado Student Grant. And so, as you know, grants are, you don't have to pay them back. It's free money to you, again, based on your eligibility. So that's, how much you might get. Colorado Work Study on campus, again, depending on need, that might be something that you see on your letter. Work study is, when you see this amount here, that is the maximum amount that you potentially could earn in a year. Work study, it would be jobs on campus. Know, however, that if you don't have work study on your award letter, that does not mean that you can't apply for jobs on campus. At the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, we have a ton of jobs on campus. Some of them are labeled that that work study students can apply for them, but many others are not. That you can be either a work study student or an hourly employee, basically. And so wanted to make sure to put that out there. Loans, of course, might be a part of your award letter, and these are the federal direct loans. And you should be aware that depending on your level, your class level, there are different maximum amounts. And so right now, again, subject to change by the federal government. Right now, freshman students can take a maximum of $5,500 a year total between direct loans. Sophomore year, that's the same amount. Junior year, it's $6,500 per year, and then senior year, it's $7,500. So it goes up a little bit. So that, of course, is money you have to pay back 6 months after you graduate from college. The final section that might be on your award letter would be the scholarship section. And the particular ones that will be on the award letter right now could be the Chancellor's Award or the Peak Award. So Chancellor's Award is for our in-state students. Peak Award is for our students who are in non-WUI states. So that could be on your letter, and obviously that's scholarship. You don't have to pay that back. I put a question mark on here because there are still other scholarships that are kind of in that review stage, final review stage. We've not sent notification yet necessarily. I know that there are some scholarships that usually we notify in April. And so that also, while we don't have that information just yet, that could potentially be a part of your award section later on down the road. So in this scenario, this particular student, this Colorado resident, their awards that they can, they can choose to accept. For example, I would probably suggest, taking the free money like the grants and the Chancellor's Award. They can choose to reduce. So, if they wanted to reduce, they're like, I don't think I need that much loan money. They can choose to do that, or they can altogether decline if they wanted to do that. And so anyway, if they did choose to accept all of these, it would be about $25,150. Okay, that's the middle section. So how does that compute? What do you do with your letter? Well, you take the total cost of attendance, you minus out the amount of aid that you plan on accepting from that middle section, and then you might come up with a number, a difference where you have your total estimated family responsibility. So what does that mean? So, or how can you cover that? Well, some students, they might have an outside scholarship that they've already earned. And so you can use your scholarship to pay any difference. Maybe you have college savings, whether it's, the parent or the student. Maybe students, if you notice that you have a difference, maybe you consider working part-time if you're not already prior to starting to help with that difference. Maybe you get graduation gift money, and maybe that'll help with that. But know that, and a lot of these things that I'm starting to go into, we also address in orientation. So don't feel like you need to remember all of this. This will all come through orientation as well. So anyway, if you do have a balance of, that's not covered by your aid, you can cover it by paying it in full every semester. Every semester there is a census date, which is usually a couple weeks after the start of the semester. And so you want to make sure to pay your bill by census date every semester. You can pay in full. You can also choose to be on a payment plan, and Linda can drop in that link that you see on the slides. And we have, I think when I last looked at it, there's payment plans where you can spread out your payments like four different times throughout the semester, or 3 different times throughout the semester. There is a fee to do that. There are other loans that that you could choose to do, such as the Federal Parent Plus loan or private educational loans, or sometimes students will combine the different options to take care of their ballots. Okay, scholarships. So you'll see the website for our scholarships. And as I mentioned, if you have applied for other merit-based scholarships with us, when you go to this website and click into the description, in the descriptions, it'll say when you will be receiving those notifications, whether or not you got them. So make sure to visit that website. And then on the top row, I put in some info about the Chancellor's Award and Peak Award. So for many years, students who submitted for many years, the Chancellor's and Peak Award were automatic scholarships based on your GPA and your test scores. And so some students this year, who did have a test score, we were able to automatically consider them for these 2 awards. Very, very many students did not have test scores. And so what we did was students who were admitted to UCCS without test scores and had a minimum 3.0 high school GPA with rigorous academic curriculum, they were invited to apply. And so if you were invited to apply, we do encourage you to make sure to complete the brief form, the brief application, and you would have been invited, again, if you make those qualifications, via an email with a personalized link to that scholarship form. So I know that I checked how many of you were transfer students, and I think I saw about 20% of those on the call today were transfer students. Transfer students, good news, you have not missed the transfer scholarship deadline. The transfer scholarship deadline is May 1st. And so these 2 are just a couple of examples of the transfer scholarships that are available. So please make sure to go into your UCCS portal, click into your scholarship application, and get your transfer application done, scholarship application done by May 1st. Okay, what if things have happened since filling out the FAFSA? What if you have special circumstances? Here is the contact information for our amazing financial aid office team. So please reach out to them to see what kind of information they might need from you. In terms of whether or not you might need an adjustment to your package, things like that. This is also the contact information if you filed the FAFSA but have not yet received your letter. But remember to check your UCCS portal for any to-do items before you reach out to them. All right, I see some questions related to key dates. And again, this first, clicking on the wrong thing again. So this first slide are some ongoing reminders. And so as I mentioned, not too late to submit the FAFSA if you've not done that. For those of you who maybe just recently got accepted to the university, and again, you fall in that range of not having a test score and having a 3.0 or above with rigorous curriculum, we are still sending out invitations for the Chancellor and Peak scholarships. And so, again, watch your email for that. Again, ongoing every week, the financial aid office is sending out and processing FAFSA and sending out your financial aid award notification. Note that it is coming to you via regular mail, not via email. Scholarship notifications, as I mentioned, those are ongoing, being sent, with a good amount of notifications going out in April. Also, we are still registering for orientation. Orientation is the mechanism for where you get recommendations from your academic advisor as to what classes you should register for your first fall semester with us. Or if you're starting in the summer, then of course our advisors will give you information on that. And our housing application is still available. And I believe Linda can go ahead and drop in those various links that I just mentioned. So if you do still you still have not filled out the scholarship form for Chancellor and Peak Scholarship, or you, like I said, you were recently admitted and just got your invite, please note that the deadline to turn that in is April 15th. UCCS transfer scholarship deadline is May 1. And then May 31 is the last day to get your most of your housing deposit back. So as an example, if you applied for housing and then perhaps you've decided to go to a different university, you want to let housing know by May 31 so that you can get $500 of the $600 deposit back. So make sure to do that. Or maybe you're an El Paso County student who did submit a housing application, and now maybe you decide that you want to live off campus or live with your parents. Again, May 31, please make sure to let them know so that you can get the majority of your deposit back. All right, so these dates are things that, again, will be gone over at orientation as well. July, so that award information on that letter that you received, that middle section, July is when, if you've decided to come to UCCS, they will get added into your portal. And so there you'll be able to accept, decline, reduce your award as well. July 31, if you decide to apply for a part-time student job on campus, July 31 is when it opens up on our website that we call Sean. And Linda can go ahead and drop that in the chat as well. All kinds of opportunities. We, in our Office of Admissions, that we hire tour guides, maybe over at dining services, you want to be a barista at one of the coffee shops. Maybe you want to, be hired over at the recreation center to run some of those outdoor field trips. So July 31, if that's something that you're interested in. Beginning of August is when you will typically see your fall bill posted to your portal, and we don't send bills via mail. They are posted on your portal. So that's when you will first see your bill. August is a busy month for all. This year, so UCCS move-in is going to be the week of August 15th. In years past, pre-COVID, it usually happened on one particular day, but because of COVID, we had to spread out our students moving in over the course of like from Sunday through Wednesday. We've not quite firmed that up yet, but housing will send you more information as to whether or not you'll have a specific date and time that they want you to move in starting that week of August 15th. For all of our freshmen that are on the call, know that Gateway Program Seminar begins on August 19th. And I think that Linda can, thanks Linda, can drop you that link. And that is a time for freshmen only to be on campus taking their Gateway Program Seminar class. And you'll see a description of all the different choices you have for your Gateway Program Seminar. The following Monday, August 23rd, is your first day of all of your fall semester classes. So not just new students, but continuing students. That is when everybody is back, August 23rd. And finally, Census Date, the day that is important in terms of making sure that your bill is taken care of this year. It is on my youngest son's birthday, September 9/9/9. So another important day to remember. Before we get to that though, I'm going to share with you one more date, which is our admitted student celebration. I was talking to my colleague and friend Jacqueline about this, and this year, if anything, is we want to mark milestones, and this is our way of marking the milestone of you getting into UCCS. And so, whether or not you are choosing to come or not, we do want to mark that this is a special thing, especially if you are the first in your family to go to college. Graduating from high school, going on to college, it's a big deal, and we truly believe that it is. So we're celebrating you, our student celebration that we're putting together. It'll be on April 15th. It will premiere on YouTube Live. And kind of simultaneous to that, parents, you are welcome to write a kudo for your kiddo. And some of y'all parents have done that. And I love the pictures and the words for your kids on there. Again, we're marking milestones here, and this is a big one. Okay. We're almost done, guys. Thanks for sticking with us. So Clyde, and you are wondering, Vanessa, you just gave me some really big dollar amounts. Like, how do I take this all in? And I'm going to just offer you a couple of things related to that, because loans, firstly, is very much on top of mind for many students and families. It's hard to ignore because it's in the news. If you go to our website, our University of Colorado System website, cu.edu/affordability, you'll find some of this really neat data in terms of loan debt, value of a college degree, and things like that. So one of the things you'll see on that website is this chart, average student loan debt for bachelor's recipients. And you can see the gold section are the CU campuses, and then all the other bars are the other Colorado public universities. And so you can see here, this is UCCS right here. We're on the lower end when it comes to loan debt when you compare us to our Colorado colleagues. And this is for all undergraduates. You can see that if you wanted to just see the average loan debt for resident undergraduates from Colorado, you could look at that. And so I know it might be hard to read depending on the size of your screen, but the average loan debt for our UCCS grad was $25,079. And so I was curious as to how that broke out into a monthly payment after y'all have graduated with your degree. And so Linda's going to share the loan calculator that I use because I really kind of enjoyed this particular one because it not only gave me what the monthly might be, but it gave me kind of what the salary would be, the minimum salary that you would want to have in order to make payments accordingly on a loan this size. So, but again, you can use any loan calculator. With this particular one that I used, I put in that principal amount of loan of $25,079 divided over 10 years. And the current interest rate for federal direct loans is at 2.75. So you compute that, that's about a little over $200 a month. Again, why I like this calculator in particular was that it's telling me that it'll take me about $36,000 per year of a salary to make those payments. And our college graduates on average are making more than that. And so on the next slide here, when it comes to, and this is not just the affordability of a UCCS degree, but, just college in general, you can see that over the lifetime, a student with a bachelor's degree will earn a little more than 1.5 million over their lifetime versus a high school graduate. And so that's that particular chart there. When you go to this website, you'll also see stats on how bachelor's degree students do have lower employment rates and actually have better health or access to health care. And I thought this was an interesting fact or an interesting point on the website. Around half of CU bachelor's degree recipients graduate with no debt. And again, that's across the system. That's not limited to UCCS. Phew, that was a lot of info. the best admissions team ever, what questions or themes should we address first in this Q&A section?
Hi, Vanessa. Can you go over just what the process is for scholarship? How you're notified, and kind of just touch on that again.
Yeah, for sure. So let me go back to the scholarship link so that you can pull that there. Different scholarships had different requirements for you. So some, they had you write an essay. And so, for example, I know myself and Chris, we both read for the presidential scholarship pool, and we had to be done reading those a couple of weeks ago. So, but again, I think that particular one was marked as not sending out notifications to students until April. Some scholarships, there's an interview component. And so you would have been contacted if they were going to bring you in for an interview. And I'm trying to think what else. So again, I think the key in terms of the timelines for finding out whether or not you got the scholarships that you applied for is to go to this website and pull up the description where it tells you, like, okay, I'm going to know in April, or I'm going to, know end of March, so on and so forth. Does that answer your question?
I definitely think that answered the question. We had a question about whether or not the financial aid office would be able to see if a student had applied for the COF.
I don't know. Chris, do you know the answer to that?
Financial aid can, and so can a person in their portal. Most COF, the COF process really doesn't kick off until a student does their actual class registration. And so it's not something that you will miss a deadline for doing it, like missing it right now. You really have all summer to do it. And COF is something that's guaranteed to all Colorado residents. So you're not missing out by doing it in June, for example, just as long as it's done before the final census date bill due date. But yeah, you can be able to tell you will be able to see if you did COF. We could tell you if you did COF. It's all in the portal.
Thank you.
I want to grab one here quick, but I have to hit enter on the question and answering. There's been a few questions about residency, and residency in Colorado is a very complex situation. So for out-of-state students coming in, we are not a school where you can become an in-state student the following year. Residency involves a student being usually over the age of 23, having lived in Colorado for a year, being financially independent. That's a huge one. And then doing all of their own ties to Colorado. So voting, registering their car, driver's license, and then ultimately paying taxes in Colorado. So a student usually being claimed by a family member outside of Colorado will not qualify them for in-state tuition, unfortunately. We're just a really tough state. I blame ski resorts, but so it's not an easy process. It's not impossible, I say that, but it's unlikely that a freshman, sophomore, traditional age freshman, sophomore, junior student would get in-state tuition.
Thank you. What else?
Vanessa, someone asked if you can apply for the presidential scholarship if you're a continuing student, or is it only for new first-year students?
Chris, I feel like we've only read first-year students.
Yes, it's a new student award only.
But having said that, there are a good amount of continuing student scholarships. So as I mentioned before, FAFSA is something you want to do every year for all 4 years that you're in college. The scholarship application is something that you want to do all 4 years too. Now, we do give out, like Chris said, we do have some 4-year scholarships that would have rewarded you based on your credentials coming in from high school or coming in as a transfer student. But we also have scholarships that reward you based on what you've done as a UCCS student, because that's important to us as well. And so know that, if by chance you didn't get, some of those new scholarship ones, that we have a good amount of continuing student scholarships available to you. So make sure to apply for scholarships every year with us, and then you can just add more.
I do just want to clarify, we're getting some questions about whether or not students can still apply for scholarships. Things like the presidential scholarship, that application deadline has already passed. And right now it's mostly transfer student scholarships that are still available. So for students that haven't been admitted to UCCS, you would not be applying, unless you're a transfer student, you would not be applying for scholarships for the academic year 2020 to 2021. It would be for the following academic year, and that application will open December 1st. And then Vanessa, can you go over we're getting a lot of questions about when students will hear about their housing assignments. And just so you all know, fun note, we do have a housing virtual webinar that will be coming up on April 6th. And you can register for that if you go to uccs.edu/virtual, but I'll let Vanessa cover housing timeline questions.
Yeah, so we just had our priority date for the housing application happen earlier this week, March 15th. Again, you can still apply. Usually you hear at least which building and room you receive before the end of the spring semester, and then you actually get more of like that roommate information early summer. So that way, before you come on and move onto campus, then you would have their contact information so that you all can connect and coordinate accordingly. So yeah.
I just want to give out, I know I'm still seeing a lot of questions about residency. And so for those of you that really, those questions are very specific to your situation, and they can kind of go over that full outline of what someone would have to do to qualify. You can email TUIT, TUIT, class, just one S, CLAS @uccs.edu, and they will be able to give you very specific recommendations and answer your questions technically so that you get all of the right information. Trying to.
Someone was asking what time our admitted student celebration is. I believe it premieres at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. But if you subscribe to our UCCS admissions YouTube channel, you will get notification when that is about ready to go live.
I see a question in here about a student that got accepted to Phi Theta Kappa and what the requirements are. So that is, I think they're asking about a transfer scholarship. Phi Theta Kappa is an honor society that is offered through community colleges. And so they are actually the ones that invite students into that. There's GPA requirements. So that would be something where a student would already need to be affiliated with that honor society through a community college.
And I see a question, I'm guessing it's about the chart I showed. Is the loan debt yearly? No, this is total across 4 years.
I had another great question from a transfer student, whether you have to be a community college student to apply for transfer scholarships. That is not the case. Transfer scholarships would be if you're coming from a 4-year or a 2-year institution, but that Phi Theta Kappa is specific to community college. 4-year institutions don't offer that honor society, but there are other transfer scholarships that you can take a look for. Someone asked about study abroad opportunities. So there are study abroad opportunities The costs for those will vary. So it's going to depend on where you want to go study, how long you want to be there. And so sometimes things like scholarships and financial aid can be applied towards that. But it can definitely be more expensive to do education abroad. So if you attend UCCS, you can definitely work with our financial aid department and our education abroad office to make a plan for what would fit you.
All
Vanessa,
right. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say we had a question about methods used to match students and housing.
You and I were like on the same wavelength there. Yeah, so on the housing application, there's a few different questions that are asked in terms of preferences. Are you a night owl or an early bird? Are you clean? Which of course is a relative term depending on who you ask. My definition of clean, I have learned, is different than my high school seniors' definition of clean. And so there's that. Also, to some students, they might have been connecting with one another via different channels, like via Instagram, or they know someone who is also attending UCCS. Each student has a roommate code, and so if you know someone that you want to live with, you just need to both make sure that you are putting down one another's roommate codes on your housing application. There is a question about will students still be sharing a room, 3 people with COVID, or have the room capacities changed? So this past year, we did not do triples. We had, if students were willing to have a roommate, they could. But for the most part, I think students had the single, or even if it was a double room, then they were by themselves. But again, if they were willing to room, we're not sure yet what the, what that's going to look like for the fall. We're very optimistic that, the various floor plans will be available.
I saw a question about off-campus housing and things that are close by. So I just want to say that yes, there are some different off-campus housing options near campus. And so that includes things, you can look up West Edge and you'll find some information. That's one of our more popular ones. It's pretty much right across the street from campus, so it's in walking distance. So I would say, yes, there are a lot of options. There is a commuter housing website where you can see more options near campus. I'm trying to think, if you type in, let's see.
I think it's offcampushousing.uccs.edu, but
you've got it memorized. That is it. That's correct. That will get you more information.
Someone's asking, where did that question go? How do you find the roommate code? So when you sign into your housing application, it'll be the column on the left side. You'll see the field from roommate code.
I see a question, are there scholarships specific to Native Americans? I'm not sure if UCCS specifically has one, but you can use the scholarship search function. If you look up scholarships on the UCCS website, there's a search and you can see, you can type in Native American, see if anything comes up. And I'd also encourage you to look at resources that outside of the university, there might also be some scholarship opportunities for students who are Native American. Vanessa, is there anything you'd add to that?
Nope, I think you got it. Someone asked, are there any student meet and greets prior to the first day? Typically, yes, that's kind of enfolded with our Gateway Program seminar for our freshman students. And then usually over the weekend, leading up to the Monday that school starts for everybody, they have a wide variety of activities put on by our student life office, student government, the different clubs and organizations. So yeah, definitely be on the lookout for that. When you sign in, the room code is blank. So you gotta fill in the form or fill in that first page, click next to the next page, because there's like 14 tabs that you click through, I think, for the housing app. But if you click back to the screen, to the page that had the roommate code, then the code will pop up. I only know that because I had to do it with my son. We are almost through all these questions. Thanks, y'all. Lots of good questions. I think
I saw some questions. Someone asked how did the 3-room cost split, even if the school chooses not to put 3 students in a room? So how the school handled, I think the question is, how did the school handle billing this past year if you lucked out and got a room to yourself, but it was
right.
more people?
Chris, I think that they kind of adjusted. So the numbers that you saw on the bill estimate, they adjusted them accordingly. So I'm pretty sure if this last year, the students, if they selected a double but ended up in a single, they were still charged for the double.
Yeah, I don't think we changed on them. I mean, now, granted, your first choice is never guaranteed. So you might get a room that is more your third or fourth choice, and then you're charged accordingly. But in situations where we had to move people around for capacity reasons, things like that, I don't think they were upcharged. And we will have information releasing in the next, probably in the next week, about more information about fall semester and housing capacity and things like that. We're currently at 1,350 students living in housing. Our max capacity is around 1,640. And with the way our county health situation is looking, with vaccine availability, all of those factors, we're going to be, the goal is to be pretty close to capacity this coming fall. So maybe not to the 1,640, but probably to in the 1,500 range. We do want to reserve some private rooms for any necessary quarantining, things like that. So our goal is to be close, and we've got information that we plan on sending out here soon. We just have to get it approved by the appropriate sources to give you the proper update, because we don't want to overpromise and really, frankly, underdeliver on that. That's pretty serious for us and for you all.
All right, so we're going to finish up answering some of these questions in the chat. Thank you all so much for your patience with our tech fun at the beginning of our session. I'm so glad you all signed back in. Please do reach out to us if you think of any other questions. We're so glad that you're here and that you're considering us. We did drink the juice here. We do believe that UCCS is a good choice. So have a good rest of your evening, and thanks.